Damn computer. Uh-oh. Just a minute. Got it. Okay, well, I want to welcome everybody to the Costella at the Colony board meeting. I'm Randy Lansing. We'll be conducting the board meeting, our normal board meeting, along with a question and answer session following the meeting with residents. So with that, I'll call the meeting to order. Dana, we had proof of notice, and which was a reduced amount because of the emergency powers, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we notified them, I think it was on the 20th. All right, so I'll move right to the previous minutes. Any changes, amendments, or a motion to approve the previous minutes?
I move to approve.
Second, okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, previous minutes are approved. So we'll begin the normal board meeting, and I just want to make a quick comment before we get started on status of all the issues. I just want to say that this board started acting on the issues at Costella the very night of the hurricane. There was no help from our management company. No, Dana accepted from that, right? Dana's new just within the last few weeks, but there was no help. Just crickets. The people up north were contracting services, and the people on the ground were executing the work. So I can't say enough about how this board pulled together and the tireless effort of those on the ground, specifically, Marianne, Jim, and Dick Fry. Now, Dick Fry's not on the board, but he was out there doing his thing. So since that time, the board has been meeting regularly. And that's again under the emergency power regs, so that we've been meeting to go through issues. And so I think the best way for us to communicate to the residents that are on this call to the board meeting is just to go through our regular meeting, what's been done, what needs to be done, and so on. So I'll start with what's been done. The lights are on. However, the first floor outlets must be replaced. The pool and pavilion are without power. And I'll get into what we need to do to restore that power and that kind of thing in a minute. But I just want to let people know what's been done. The fire alarm system is working. However, the first floor pull stations need to be replaced. The sprinkler system is working. A jockey pump which maintains pressure in the lines must be replaced in building 3. The emergency lighting does not work. The lights are on at night, but if we lose power, it will be dark. So you need to have a flashlight, especially if you have a dog and you're walking your dog. The elevators are working. The pits have been pumped out and cleaned. The call switches are a little fussy. And also just a reminder, please do not hold the doors open because it will stop the elevator and we have to reset it. The storage areas and garages have been cleaned out, power washed, disinfected, and rinsed down. And I don't know how many dumpsters that you folks hauled out of here, Jim and Marianne. I don't know. Do you have an idea? Can't hear you.
You're muted.
You're muted, Jim. You're muted now. I can see you're muted. Marilyn, you're muted. Okay,
I'm not muted.
I can hear you.
Unmute. Okay.
Can you hear us now?
We can, yes.
Perfect. And we were in a position where only Dana could unmute us. We couldn't do anything.
Oh.
We're guessing that we hauled away somewhere between 160 and 200 cubic yards of material from the garages. So around 8 to 10 dumpsters.
Wow. Well, a lot of cherished things in those storage areas and that kind of thing. And I know that was hard for people, but we all had to do it. So that's done. The Costella actually looks good at this point. I know it didn't look good a month ago, but a month ago tomorrow a month ago today, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A month ago today, it did not look good. It looked terrible, but due to the work of everyone, it really looks pretty good today. It's just seems to me that it looks better every day. And that's because we're making progress every day. And the plants are coming back and that kind of thing. But the landscaping and trees, you know, you can tell they've taken a beating, and it's going to take some time for them to come back. So that's kind of current status. And, you know, to get into phase two. And I'm just going to walk through my list of things to do and ask for the status from each of you. So the first on my list is the electrical outlets and switches on the first floor must be replaced. I've got Joe for an action on that. Joe's status.
I'm muting.
Can't hear Joe.
Joe is mute. Joe's muted too. Dana has to unmute him.
I can tell she's working at it.
Randy, while she's working, maybe I could fill it in. There's
Okay.
probably 3 or 4 items on the electrical list that we're working on.
Yes.
And the first one is to try to get the 600 amp breaker replaced on the pool house. That's
Yeah,
number
I was
one.
going to tick each one of those off one at
Yeah.
a time, but go
So
ahead.
that was the number 1 on the electrical list. Number 2 is then getting the uninterruptible power supply for the lights, which is a fire safety issue. That's kind of number 2 on
I
the
mean, the
list.
emergency lights is what you're
The
talking.
emergency lights on the atrium floors, they
Right.
work, as you said, but if power goes out, we lose them. That's number 2. And then number 3 are all of the electrical outlets on the garage floor level and getting the street lights back going. So that
Right.
was kind of the priority with the West Coast Electric.
Right.
Just
And
to
Joe-
add,
I had all of
Joe
those
can
on my
help.
list as well. I guess it depends on whose list you're using.
Yes, so Joe, go ahead.
yeah, just to add on the emergency lights, the inverter and the batteries are supposed to be received at West Coast tomorrow. And then I'll get an installation date as of Thursday. Since we're on the power as well, the reason the pool has no power in some other areas is because of 600 amp 3-phase breaker failed. And that apparently has been received today at the West Coast. And I'll get an installation date tomorrow. So see what happens once we put those on, and hopefully no other gremlins show up subsequent to that breaker. Yeah, that's what I have for that item at this point.
Okay, good. And we should get some kind of priority, shouldn't we, Joe, since it's emergency lighting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the priority I stressed on commercial electric service is definitely the power, the pool area, because it is also affecting other areas. And that's the top priority right now. And the emergency light, I think they'll do it back to back.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to take them very long to install the new breaker. I would imagine less than a day. But we'll see subsequent to that, once that's installed, see what else happens downstream. But anyways, I did speak with them yesterday afternoon, and yes, they will get on it pretty quickly.
Good. Okay. Let's see, I got electrical at the pool, geothermal heaters at the pool while we're on the pool, Joe.
Yeah, the geothermal thing, it has been identified that 5 out of 8 will have to be replaced at a cost of about $73,000. We don't know right now what the delivery is. Basically, what we were told by Symbiont, we basically just have to get on the list. And I guess the demand has been extremely high. And we should know hopefully this week when we expect to get those. But we have 3 of them. Apparently they will work once we get the power. And that will take probably the temperature to the pool, maybe 80, 81. But I don't think we're going to see 89 or 88 pretty soon. Like I said, demand is extremely high. That's what we were told.
Right.
Now, once we get the breaker, hopefully we can turn on the circulating pumps and see what else we got there. I have to report on that part. So my pool buddies, I think we need to be patient.
Okay. All right, let's walk into fire alarm system. That's Joe and Jim have been involved in that.
Yeah, I've been supporting Jim on this mostly from here, phone calls, but Jim knows pretty much a lot of details, what's happening on the field. I mean, we do have, I think CES as well. They're supposed to change some of the pull cords and alarms and a couple of annunciator panels. That work hasn't started yet. I'll have to push them to see when they're going to start this. I know we had lots of alarms and sprinkler heads turning on at many locations. But at this point, we basically have to get a good company to be able to monitor these the alarm system and the fire sprinkler system. Right now, we're just trying to get them running. As I think was Jim that mentioned before, there is a jockey pump which keeps the pressure into one of building 3 in the lines. And actually, one of them did come in on I think it was last week, but they couldn't get the new pump to run, so they just got a new one. I believe was yesterday. Hopefully, it'll be installed over the next couple of days. But Jim could tell you a lot about what went wrong with the sprinklers and fire alarms because he was the fire marshal.
Well, and Jim, we've got a lot of people listening today, so, they want to feel like the facility is safe. So could you give us some detail on that, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Randy, we talked about phase 1. That was kind of like, let's make Costello safe for us to live in from a fire standpoint, a power standpoint, and a health standpoint. From a fire, there's 2 angles. There's the monitoring system, and then there's the sprinkler system if a fire is detected. On the monitoring system, the short answer is if there is a fire in the condo units or there's a fire in the garage, the sprinkler systems will turn on and they'll snuff the fire, and there will be an alarm that goes to Estero or Bonita Springs Fire Department, whichever is closer. So if there is an alarm, I do suggest if you're on property, leave the building. It's not a false alarm. That's the short answer. Longer term, we with the 5 to 6 feet of water in the garages, all of the poles, the fire poles on the first image, as well as the annunciator panel in the atrium that the fire department uses to turn off the alarms. We've ordered new ones. We're waiting for those parts to come in, and then CES will replace those fire poles and the annunciator panels. Notice how I didn't say anything about sensors. None of the sensors in the building that I'm aware of are not operating. We do have a few sensors in the stairwells and in outside that failed because of the storm, but these are sensors that let us know if somebody has tampered with the water supply to the fire system. So the fire system is working. We just got to get those outside sensors replaced. Once again, those have been ordered and we'll get them installed by CES as soon as possible. On the flip side is if an alarm is censored, then the sprinkler system has to work. As far as we know of, all of the damage caused by the storm, primary effects, those housings and valves have been replaced, except for this jockey pump in building 3. And basically that just maintains pressure on the system so the really big fire pump doesn't come on. Joe and Randy have already told you we're in the process of replacing it. And our last message from what's called Full Force is they'll be out today or tomorrow to replace that jockey pump. So I would say that the fire system is working fine, but I do put out there that both on the sensors and on the sprinklers, we're seeing some secondary effects. You can still have salt and water cause some things to corrode that would cause an alarm to go off. We've seen some sprinkler heads fail and some pressure gauges fail. We did not expect to fail. And I think these are just secondary effects coming from the pump room and from the storm. So if the alarms go off, listen to them. It's not a false alarm. That'll make sure we're all safe in Costello.
Yeah, now we've had people in here working and we've had some alarms from that. And if we do have that kind of thing, we'll do some kind of email blast to warn people in advance, right?
That's correct. I don't think we've had an alarm for since a week ago last Friday when we were pressure washing the 3rd building. Since then, it's been quiet, knock on wood. But if we know we're going to have an issue, we'll try to get the message out.
Yeah, I know we had some alarms in building two a couple of days ago, but I knew the guy was down there working on that and it was short-lived.
Oh,
know.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on the sprinkler system, the alarm system, anything from anybody? All right, elevator repair. Joe, you're on that.
Yeah, anyways, the elevators are safe, but they're not perfect. I think the major problem at this point in time is the hot wire landlines not communicating. So we have to be after hot wire to come in and fix whatever the problem is. I'm not sure if it's related to the fact that we don't have power in that area, Jim, but we need to get the hot wire landlines working so it will communicate. Anyways, I have been also working with Kone to try and get rid of those landlines and use wireless. Unfortunately, there's such a long delay in some of these wireless equipment that they deal with. They order some pieces in July and they haven't received anything yet. So basically, the gentleman from Kone asked me if we can find another kind of another company that may have some of these on stock. And I do have one from CES, but it will add cost to this. And I'm trying to evaluate exactly what it means. And we're looking at about $14,000 for the 6 elevators to have them wireless. Don't know exactly, I asked the availability of some of these things. They haven't got back to me. So that's one thing. And in the meantime, we definitely need to carry a phone when we're in an elevator, because if something goes wrong, there's no way you can communicate.
Yeah, and the phones are spotty inside the elevator also, right?
Exactly. So so that's an issue. So I have to, I mean, they're safe from going up and down, but if they fail for whatever reason, then we got a problem. The other thing we did say, well, the elevators are safe. It doesn't mean to say that there's going to be a lot of work that's going to be required over many months. None of them are urgent to the point that we need to do it right now, but because they've been exposed to seawater, especially in the pit, there's, well, the governor ropes have to be changed. A lot of switches, limit switches, also the steel work that's in the pit. I mean, they will corrode over time and they have to be scraped and painted. So all of that will cost about $86,000.
Wow.
So it's a fair amount of money. Hopefully we'll get most of it from the insurance, which I hope we will. I mean, that's part of the cost. And then we spend another almost $9,000 in pumping out and cleaning the pits. So the elevators, we're looking at about $100,000 overall. And the other thing, in the space of about 10 days, I haven't heard of any issues in the past week, but we had 7 callouts. That's just as much as we had the first 7 months of this year. So it's possible that we may have more issues down the road as things dry out. You know, we may have some corrosion. Certainly, we know the switches don't work that well at times. That was initially. Maybe they dried out. Maybe they're starting to work better. But there's a lot of work that's going to be required.
Yeah, and you all on the ground had those elevators up on the 6th floor too, right?
They were up on the 6th and I think the 4th floor, which is what helped protect the elevators. I did hear a story yesterday that Florentia had 1 or 2 elevators on the ground and they got 5 feet of water in it, so the elevator's out of commission completely.
Well,
So-
actually, at Castella, I think I wasn't there, but back in the days of Irma, I think they were parked on the 1st floor and there was a lot of damage, even though we didn't have flood, but there was water ingress. Am I right, Marilyn?
Yes, you're correct. And in fact, we had to replace the whole interior of all 6 cabs at that time. So absolutely correct.
So good work in getting those high and dry, guys, but still $100,000 and, you know, really didn't see a flood in them. It's just amazing that they're that sensitive, but I guess that's the way it is.
So take precautions when taking the elevator. They're not going to fall or anything like that. It just, if they fail. Then somebody could get stuck inside and no way to communicate.
Right.
And to Randy's point before, please don't keep those elevators doors open, just let them close and, call it back if you have to, because we had one fail in building 2 yesterday because somebody was propping it open, we
Right.
think.
Right. Okay, let's move on to irrigation system controls. Joe, you're still.
Okay. Yeah, apparently the controllers and they have been received. I think we need 4 of them. And I think they received 3 and they're still waiting for the other one. They were expecting the last one today, and they said they were going to start installing them at the end of this week, which could continue into early next week. So, and actually, I'm trying to remember the cost of that, but that was about $14,000, which will
Right.
not be paid by insurance, just
Right.
to let you know.
And that will be timely because it's getting dry out there. I can see it
Right.
in the grass and that kind of thing. It needs the system going. Okay, street light repair, one more for you, Joe. And I guess we covered street light repair when we did electrical.
Yeah, nothing is happening there from what I understand.
Yeah, that'll be a lower priority item. Okay,
Randy, I just want to say, I don't know, maybe we should elevate it because we won't get any Christmas lights until the power's down on that. There'll be no Christmas for us at Castella.
I
What
guess
can we
Randy,
do to-
I'm sorry, Marilyn.
What can we do to expedite that?
I guess let me make a comment here that we worked with our contractors and the vast majority of them were fantastic. They helped us with what we needed to get done immediately. But there is so much damage north of us and out on the beach islands. While we think some of these items are, vitally important and must be done yesterday, the reality is a lot of people don't have power and have a lot tougher situations than us right now. So the contractors, poor guys, are working 12, 14 hours a day. We're probably starting to put them in safety risk because they're getting tired. So
Yeah.
while I see the garage outlets and I see the street lights as important for Christmas lights, and I know you were kind of joking, the reality is
Yeah.
compared to the needs in the area, we got to operate on a triage and we'll take what we can get and in the priority order that we think we need it.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
reality on the ground right now.
I agree with you, Jim. Same thing here. I mean, the same thing with the elevators. I mean, we've reached a certain point. Now there's too many other emergencies, and basically I was told, they're working, and that's the best we can do at this point in time, and the rest has to come next year.
good point. Good point. All right, I'm moving on to water pressure system power up. That system is down. We put money into that last year to get that system up and running. And I believe the company that we were working with was Waterworks. I don't know if I just sent that to you yesterday, so I don't know if Dana has had the opportunity to verify that. I sent you an email on it, Dana, and to Joe.
Yeah, I saw that, and I haven't done anything on it.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing we don't have to have tomorrow, but we can get it rolling.
But we don't know exactly if the pumps are damaged on this, Jim. I know we had about 10 inches of water in that area, but I'm not sure if they just need to be checked, or we know for sure they're damaged.
It varies by building. We've got some panels that it looks like the system's trying to operate, but one or two of the panels are in alarm. In one of the other buildings, the system's completely shut off, and it might be because we got about 8-10 inches of water, and those pumps sit on the ground, so they did get water in them. So they need to be checked out, all 6 of them, before we just go in and start throwing switches.
Yeah, probably the motors. Yeah, if they were submerged partially, I think they would have shorted. Yeah. Maybe the pumps might be okay, but maybe the motors only.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Dana, if you could verify that it was Waterworks, and I'm 90% on that, but if it's Waterworks, and then get Joe a point of contact, and we can get things going.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. Okay, Dana, we're gonna hit you hard now. First floor door locks. I know you're talking to the locksmiths, trying to get them here.
Yes, we had not last Friday, but the Friday prior, we had BB Locksmith out on the property because with your master key system, there are only so many locksmiths that can do that job. They had one of their senior techs come out that Friday. He's also their safe guy. He came out and we looked at the 2 garage exits, the 2 atrium exits, all 4 stairwell doors, the front atrium doors, and he also took a look at the mailboxes. He did leave some Houdini with us to try and see if we could loosen the mailboxes up for a little bit, but we've stalled a little bit now because I not only have their number, but I did get the number for the owner. Her name is Jeannie, and I've tried contacting them multiple times since then, and we're having a hard time getting a response, which seems to be a problem with several of the vendors we're working with as we move further away. But I do have a call into her. I've left her voicemails, and I'm going to continue to follow up.
Okay. Yeah, it's an important thing. Security wise, we can't really lock down the facilities. The front doors are kind of open, the stairway doors, some of the push bars are engaging, some aren't. So, it's not as secure as it normally is. And with that goes garage door repairs. I know you were working with Overhead Door, Dana.
Yes, I did contact Overhead Doors while I've been speaking with them. They've picked up their phones up until recently. I did follow up and look for other commercial garage door companies that could come out in lieu of Overhead Door to see if we could get those doors in building 2 and building 3 where they need to be. However, as I've spoken to their service managers, they have said that since the doors that you guys have are actually from the Overhead Door manufacturing company, they would be able to come out and take a look at them and diagnose issues and even order parts. But they said the time frame between them coming out and ordering any parts you need and when they might get those parts is going to be comparable to just waiting to have Overhead Door come out themselves and take care of it. They actually both recommended that we wait on Overhead Door company to come out and do the diagnosis and the parts themselves, because they would have quicker access to any of the parts we needed since it was manufactured by their company.
Right. And while we're on garage doors, some of you may have lost your garage door openers in your cars that were down here. I sent you a link to Amazon so you could buy new ones if you like. Dick Fry has offered to help anyone that needs help setting their garage door opener after they receive their new one. So if you do buy a new one and you come down, see Dick Fry. I think Dick semi-trained me, but and I think our new Cam, Leo August is his name, has also been semi-trained on that. But anyway, see Dick Fry, and then we'll go from there. Dana, Crowther roof inspection results. I know they were out and you were participating. I was there for a while.
Yes, Crowther Roofing came out and went through all the roofs. They were a team that was not only doing inspections, they were also making repairs as they go. I know when we were all up there, we saw them doing some repairs to shingles and things like that. So they went through the whole of all 3 buildings. They were on the property for about 6 to 7 hours, a team of 3. They made the repairs they could. There was one part they had to order because it looks like they might need to fabricate it. But they did say they would get us an inspection report back, but they told me it'd be at least 2 to 3 weeks when things calm down a little bit, and that someone would contact us with a report. That way we could determine. Our biggest issue was the bubbles and the white membrane over the seal coat, taking a lot of photos of that and how they were going to proceed. But they were very clear that it was probably going to be several weeks before we heard back from them because they took care of the emergency repairs and that our roof was in very good condition considering.
So the bubbling and that kind of thing is an issue that needs to be repaired, but it's not an emergency
Correct.
because there's a
And
membrane beneath that, right?
Right. And
Right.
you did have a roof inspection early September before the hurricane that Crowther conducted. You get 2 a year. And Bonnie and myself did go up on the roof after we received that inspection to do some follow-up. So we also have some pretty good photos prior to the hurricane as to what was there. Just by chance that you had that roof inspection. So we have some photos plus to add to what the gentleman, the crew had took when he was on the roofs.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna stay with you, Dana.
Okay.
Replace the ice maker and refrigerator in the pavilion. That's a big one.
Yes, I'm tracking down the invoices. I know Marilyn told me that they had recently been purchased to see if we can go ahead and get them from the same company.
Okay. Of course, you don't need it until we get power, right?
To say there's not many, there's, like you said, the breaker hasn't been replaced yet, so there's no pool pavilion power, so.
Right, so the rest of you know, that's where Dana's been hanging out. That's been her office in the pool pavilion, using her phone as a hotspot for Wi-Fi and no power. So she's camping out. So, hats off to you, Dana, for doing
It's
that.
actually been a good meet. Everybody can find me. It's been a really good place. And then I can see vendor trucks coming and going. So if I need to hop up and check in on somebody, I see them go through. Although
Yeah,
the
well,
Amazon,
we're not gonna make that your office, sorry.
no, I know, it's just priority wise, we're waiting on Hotwire to get the internet back up and we're waiting, for different things. I understand.
Well, while you're on the Wi-Fi and Hotwire for phone and that kind of thing, I know you were on top of them too. What's going on there?
Yes, you got to enjoy. I was on the phone with Hotwire for 45 minutes on Monday. So what had happened was they'd been to the property twice prior, and they determined that there were issues where they needed to have power in order to diagnose us. And unfortunately, the GFIs in the outlets over in those electrical rooms were shot from the surge. So when West Coast came out, they were able to get Wi-Fi or hot wires equipment plugged in so that we could see what was going on. And of course, the second it got plugged in, parts of it must have gotten submerged. And so we had some snapping and some popping going on. So right now, from the Monday phone call, they have equipment being once again network engineered for Costella, and they're going to bring it out. I have a work order number, so I'm hoping that we'll see them by the end of this week so we can at least get the elevator emergency phones back up. And I know we're trying to work on a separate project to determine what all these different hot wire phone numbers are for in your property, because you do have a lot. We've narrowed down the elevators and whatnot, but we're still trying to determine where all of these lines are going. At the same time, the internet should be restored for common elements, including my office area, once they get those new parts into the electrical room. The primary pieces are in building 3 in that electrical room.
Okay. So, it starts with a 600 amp breaker, which Joe felt, maybe this week. All right, the next on my list is check and repair grills, fire pit, and LP gas tank. The concern is, if we had some water infiltration into the LP gas tank. I know I've used the grill. You have to have one of those lighters to actually light it. The ones on the grill do not work currently, so they all need to be gone through. I'll just make a comment. In the pavilion, I've heard that there was maybe a foot of water because that sits higher than the garages.
Yes.
So the furniture actually, I thought, looked pretty darn good. I didn't really take a microscope to it, but it looked pretty darn good to me, which is really good news.
Yeah, I remember after the storm, we had stacked all the umbrellas from the pool area in the pavilion. And I don't think the cushions or anything got wet inside the pavilion because they were put away in a closet. So we think the pavilion furniture is fine, and we've pulled out the pool umbrellas and we've washed them down with soap and water and rinsed them off and let them dry in the fresh rain. So we might have had minimal damage for what was stored in there.
Yeah, that was a good move. That was just smart and fast to get that off of there. And of course, I think everybody knows our furniture is at the powder painter. So it was not here for the hurricane, thank God. And
Yeah.
so have you heard lately, Marianne, when that's coming back? Not that we're in a hurry
Um,
right now, but
No, they were waiting, when they took the slings off for the powder coating, they shredded. So that the leisure furniture place called Clive Daniels, and they said that they would pay for the new slings. So they're waiting for the new slings. And they're also, Leisure Furniture is charging them for storage for all of our furniture. So we're in no hurry to get it back, but we'll get it back and better than new, hopefully, but no date. So we're just kind of letting that, let them figure out when they're gonna get the slings, and hopefully soon, but when the pool's up and running.
yeah.
So, but I can follow up with them.
And you have some temporary furniture that they loaned us, right?
Yes, yeah.
So we're good to go there. So I need to go back because I'm not clear on this. Repair grills, fire pit, gas tank. Dano, where are we with that? I'm sorry.
So Leo, the new we had a new maintenance guy start last week. Leo Winans unfortunately ran into some issues with his home with the hurricane, so he actually had to move up north. But Leo started, we've had conversations, and he feels confident that he can address any of the grill issues you might have. I know that Winans had ordered some parts for the grills before the hurricane happened. So Leo's going to work on the fire pit as well as the grills, and then also the screen doors that received some minor damage in the storm. He feels confident that he can make those repairs as well. So that's
Right.
something that's on his list. He just finished up a project to go ahead in those storage units because we were starting to see some green because the ACs were not working at the time. He just finished up a project bleaching all of those storage units to make sure that we were combating any mold growth until the ACs could come back on to serve as dehumidifiers, which many of those ACs should be up and running now. There's a few that still are not working, but I'm waiting on a report from Melissa at Haynes to let me know on any larger issues that need to be repaired so that they didn't just drop big costly repairs on us without you guys approving them first.
Right.
I
So
jumped
Randy,
from one to another.
if I can build on your question, Randy, I wanted to go to the propane tanks.
Yep.
Well, I know the grills are working and we're getting propane that will run the grills. We had heard the story about some propane tanks had gotten seawater into them. How do you check to make sure the propane is still of top quality? I
That's-
just don't know.
That's a really good question. And, all of that is sealed, I mean, there's pipe dope on there and sealed up and running over to the grills. I don't know how seawater gets in those, unless for some reason, the threads had deteriorated over time and it finds its way down the threads. I don't know. I would not be concerned about that if the grills are working and firing okay and everything seems to be working. I don't think we can talk to an LP guy. I'm not an LP guy. We can talk to an LP guy and see what they recommend, but I guess we need to do that, but I'm not terribly concerned about it, but we
Okay.
need confirmation.
I agree with you, Randy. Propane cannot go bad. I would say the only thing to probably look at, it was submerged under seawater, and I don't know if these tanks are painted. It's potential degradation or corrosion down the road from the outside. But internally, no, propane does not go bad.
Okay.
Yeah, we just filled those up
Yeah.
during season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, we should contact an LP guy and just and ask him, do we need to have that inspected? I mean, an LP guy is going to be different from the guy that repairs the grills in the fire pit, but and maybe they could provide us a recommendation as to, who can come out and just check all those things and make sure everything's good to go.
I've
But-
already made some calls in that regard, including to AmeriGas, but again, they're all not very responsive at the moment. So I just keep trying, keep pushing through.
Keep
Keep
plugging.
grilling, keep grilling, keep grilling.
Yeah. Well, that's why it was important. We got on all these things first thing, because now you're in the line, and so now it's frustrating because it's hurry up and wait. A lot of times we're trying to push, but, and like you said, Jim, there's a lot of people that have it a lot worse than we are. So, all right, lightning inspection on roofs. Dana, I've got you down for that. I don't know if anything's been done with that.
Or lightning inspections.
No,
Yeah,
let me touch on that, Randy. I probably
Okay.
am the one that raised it.
Yeah.
Marilyn did a fantastic job getting the insurance adjusters out here. I think they were here Friday after the storm. And the wind adjusters, the two of them, the one Englishman was a mechanical engineer, and he had some questions about the lightning protection that we've got on some of the roofs. It's in place and it's secure, but not all areas was it properly bonded and locked down as it should be. So it's something that we will need to have an expert at that go up there and advise what work needs to be done. My suggestion is it was going to be in his report, which I don't think we've seen yet, but that might give us some guidance as to how much work we need to do around lightning protection. So that's a little of the background, how that came up.
okay, well, we'll leave that as your action, Dana. But
Okay.
it's a new action, so we're good. And Jim, you're right. A lot of this stuff I pulled from your list. It was an excellent list. So I used it.
Okay.
Repair parking for the wheel stops. Some of them are crooked and that kind of thing. That's a good Leo issue, I think. But I have Dana, I have you down for that. Because Leo reports to you.
Yes, he and I have had conversations about it. You have some damaged ones outside, as well as the surge caused some of the cement ones to move as well. As we're gauging Leo's abilities as he works longer at Costella, he feels confident that he can take care of those. I just have to find the information as to where they ordered your initial outdoor stoppers, and then we can get those ordered and have them shipped so he can put them in.
Okay. The atrium fountains, I know building 2's fountain is not working, but I think 1 and 3 are. And then we were going to clean those up. Dana?
I have a request into Green and Clean because they do service those fountains. They clean them to see what they would charge for an indoor fountain cleaning. Hold on, Tiffany, who is the Green and Clean, the supervisor over there, she said that she was going to have her pool guy who cleans them out. They're going to try putting down something first to remove some of that white scale that you're starting to see on the brick. He did that. I don't see any difference in it, so I'm waiting for them to send over the proposal to clean all the outdoor or the indoor fountains. The outdoor fountain proposal has already been submitted to us. So I know that we were looking at getting the green that's forming on the sides removed. I know Danny from Green and Clean gave it a shot with our power washer. It didn't seem to really make any movement. So I'm going to have to follow up on that, but they've given us the proposal to drain everything, clean out the bottom, scrub everything up and get it ready to go. I just haven't pushed too hard on that one because we can't run the waterfalls until we get the breaker in the pool house. So that's been a little bit on the back burner. I've been trying to focus more on the garage doors and the locks, etc.
Yeah. Well, I would say once we get that breaker in, we can go ahead and push that button. Might as well get it going.
I would agree, because I don't think that the work that they're going to do, if they're going to pump out those waterfall pools, needs the pumps. And the less of that junk that goes through the pumps and the motors, the better. So I'd be happy to see them do it before we turn the pumps and motors back on for the waterfalls.
Okay, well, those could be back up at the end of the week. So, Dana, go ahead and get after them. Okay, building 2 exhaust fan working there on the stack number 2 range hood. Dana, it wasn't operating last I knew.
Leo was up on the roof to take a look at those, but that one I'm gonna have to follow up on because I don't have my notes on that. He went up to look at that stack as well as issues that had been mentioned about one of the vent fans running too fast.
Yeah,
And he looked at that, that couldn't be adjusted from
that
his
was that,
point of view.
that was that new one on building 3.
Yes, but we
Yeah.
followed up and for right now, we're gonna monitor it. And if needs be, they may have to put in, it's escaping me right now, the part that needs to be
rheostat.
adjusted.
A
Yeah.
rheostat.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
And Marianne, you're in that 3 stack, so you might just monitor that if you notice anything different about your dryer. It's moving a fair amount of air, more than the other ones are.
Mhm,
So if you notice something, speak up.
I will, thanks.
Okay, order stop sign for building 1, Dana, that's a biggie.
You're into the phase 3 items here, Randy.
Yeah, I know, but we gotta
Gonna say,
cover them. Might as
I
well
have
cover 'em.
not
another
ordered,
item
I
we-
have not, I have to find where to get the stop sign from first. I have not done that one yet.
Marilyn
But I
has
see
one.
that they
We
have
can go
them.
up on Bellagio and get one.
Yeah.
I have another
Well, I
one on,
did see a few stop signs down as I've been driving back and forth. I thought maybe I could just grab one from the side of the road, but
Yeah.
I see that your stop signs and all your signage there seem to match the other communities in the colony, so I'm gonna try and reach out and see if their CAM can tell me where those are coming from. I think that'd be the fastest way to do it. I spoke to Nate on Monday when I was trying to find clubhouse space, so I can follow up on the stop sign as well.
Yeah, Jim, we could do a little midnight requisitioning.
That's
Yeah.
right. We could.
that's scavenging.
Yes.
Randy, I have another item I think that probably falls in phase 2.
Okay,
That's the tele-entry systems for the buildings.
yep,
Yeah, I mean, those are shot, as we all know, and we do have a quote. We have a couple of quotes actually, and to have the Door King, which is the one we currently have, is about $16,000. There's another one, LiftMaster. It's a little bit more up to date. More or less, it's touch screen and a few other bells and whistles. It's about the same price. But except with that one, it would need, instead of using phone, it would need Wi-Fi, and we would have to be connected directly to a Wi-Fi system. So there would be additional costs, and I'm not sure exactly the technicalities of that at this point. But anyways, if we were to replace exactly with what we have, is about 16,000. And I haven't heard of any issues that, well, I spoke with the lady this morning from New IQ, and as far as she knows, they are available as of now, but who knows in a few weeks from now. So I'm gonna take the rest of the day, maybe I'll ask Jim and Dane if they better experts at these things than me. Otherwise, I'll have to ask my 15-year-old grandson to look into it.
yeah, now, if we have phone lines into the
Yeah.
elevators in each of the buildings, do we get Wi-Fi with that?
Yeah, but I did ask, I said, what if we do wireless? And then instead it's a different thing. We have to buy some wireless devices and it just got a little bit too much. But essentially the quote was based on having a direct Wi-Fi connection, not Wi-Fi, but Ethernet connection. So
Okay,
that's the only part I'm not sure. But with the Door King, exactly what we have, well, then we use the hot wire or whatever. And it doesn't have the extra bells and whistles of touch screen, and that would confuse most of us.
yeah, but there's been a lot of changes in technology since
Yeah.
2006, so I would think there's, better stuff out there now.
Yeah.
I don't-
But yeah, they did come out with the LiftMaster, and it does have a lot more bells and whistles. You can program it better. You can program it easier. So I guess with a bit of learning, it probably would be beneficial. So yeah, the only thing I'm not sure about is this Wi-Fi. If it's wireless, then I'm not sure if they need to install something else or they have a direct Ethernet connection. Yeah, so that, Dana, are you good at these things or?
In this case, I would have to do, I'd have to do some more research on it. I'd want to talk to Deanna and actually find out about the newer system. I read through the proposal, but
Yeah.
it's not something I am intimately familiar with, no, but I am pretty good with technology, so.
Oh.
You're younger than all of us, so we expect that out of you. You're our IT person.
Well, she's gonna send more
That's a lot of
information.
pressure.
She's gonna send more information, but I have to admit, you know, I'm not with it.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, Mary Ann, you're up. Furniture in the atriums.
We don't have any.
Yeah, right.
Looks pretty good.
It was all, after a couple days, the mold was just like we couldn't save it. And a lot of the vases were broken. So most of the furniture ended up in some of the dumpsters. So we're gonna have to go shopping. And
Those
We're
pots
gonna-
were floating around the garage with the cars, right?
oh yeah,
They
so
work.
those big pots, the with in the front,
Like 5 to 6 feet.
oh my gosh, they were on their sides. Some of them cracked. The plants are, what's in there is all dead, and I'm not sure what's happening with that, if they want us to rip them out or, go ahead, Dana.
Excuse me, interior plantscapes, they're responsible for all those big potted plants in the atriums. They were out, they inspected everything, they ordered new plants, and they were supposed to be out on the 18th to replace them, but they ordered the wrong size plants.
Oh,
So I
okay.
spoke with her 2 or 3 days after they were supposed to come out with the initial new plants, and they reordered the plants, and they are bringing the plants out. They said anywhere around, they're thinking the 31st. So we should have them by the end of the month, and that you guys are fully covered. So all of the plant replacement is entirely free. There's no charge there. So they will be bringing out all the plants. The pots in the atriums, they all made it through. The pots out in the garages, my understanding was those were outside at some point. Winan started explaining it, but we didn't really get into it. But the ones on the atrium made it through, and the plants are set to be replaced.
Okay.
We should have the
I
new
know-
ones in a few days.
Okay, when they come out to do those plants, we need to ask them to look at some of those big, the 5 to 6 feet vases, because some of them were cracked right down the middle.
Okay.
We actually own those big ones.
Yeah, we've had those since,
So if those are broken, we either have to kiss them goodbye or buy new ones, or ask them to put something else in.
okay,
A lot of super glue.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, while we're on furniture, let's talk about the property manager's office. I don't know if Mary Ann or Dana or which one is doing that.
I thought Dana was gonna look at it. I'd be happy to.
I have all of the items that were in the property manager's office. I have photos of everything. I have the computer, 2 monitors, the printer, there was a desk, a table with 4 chairs. I haven't gotten a quote on anything yet, just because I wasn't sure. Again, with no power in there and all of that, it wasn't on the top of my list to prioritize for getting that taken care of. The computer wasn't, to my understanding, after talking to Bonnie, it was in there, and I took serial number pictures, so I know what equipment was in there, but it wasn't, only the printer was in use. The desktop items themselves were not being used, so I did not prioritize the office furniture over some of the other things I was working on, but I
Okay.
have all the information.
Well, until you get that action done, you'll have to stay in the pavilion.
Well, I was gonna say, when the West Coast came out last week and they flipped the switch in the office, the light switch snapped and sparked. So
Yeah,
I
so
think
what's the
I'll
point?
hang out in the pavilion for a little bit longer until they have time to come out and take care of that. But yes, a chair would help when the time comes, and maybe a desk.
Yeah. So Mary Ann, let's go back to the atrium for a minute. So when are you going shopping?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, I'm gonna ask a couple people to help me, somebody from building 1, building 2, and building 3. And as soon as I get the go ahead, we'll do it. I've got the dollar amount that we can replace it with. So,
You
yeah,
aren't gonna use that for a budget, are you?
well, you tell me.
Well, I
Tell me
thought
what
they
I
did a
could
re-
spend. I'm not
they
going
did
to.
a really
cry,
good
Dan.
job of spending a lot of money the last time they put that furniture in. So I,
Yeah,
and
no,
that's
we're,
2017, 5 years ago, right?
yeah,
Something
I'm
like
not,
that. Marilyn?
I would say, don't use that as treasurer. I would say, do not use that number as a budget.
okay. Okay, and I don't think we need as much furniture as we had that was in there. I mean, the wooden benches and then the settees and the coffee table and all that. I just don't think we need that. I almost would encourage somebody from like Zing Furniture, outdoor furniture, to come out and just say, given this space, what do you suggest? And go from there. Maybe get a couple people to come out and help us is what I think we should do.
Yeah. I mean, that's not something that's, high priority because it's not necessary, but it would do a lot for attitudes, I think, if we could get the atriums fixed back up, get the plants in there, get some furniture in there,
Yeah, okay.
get back to some normalcy. Well, we got you, Marianne. Tell us about your golf cart you've been out purchasing.
I called today, this morning. We bought a used golf cart that is similar to what Winans had. It's a utility cart, but they had to put a new clutch in it because we're buying it used. The clutch is in. They are going to probably work on it at the beginning of next week and hopefully have delivery by middle to end of next week.
Okay. Well, now this clutch, it's not a clutch to operate the transmission. It's a clutch to operate the lifting, the bed, right? It's a bed that tilts and all of that. So it's a clutch for that, right? It's an added, as I understood it. It's an
Nice.
added.
My husband is saying no, it's going to give more. Yeah, it's a heavy duty clutch, like in a vehicle, but it's heavy enough to because we need something for the dumpsters. It's just not,
Pulling the dumpsters and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
it's
with
not like a golf cart. It needs more power. And so that's why we decided to go ahead and have a heavy duty clutch put in.
you. Okay, all right. I misunderstood.
That's
All
okay.
right, well, keep on going here, girl. Landscape issues, let's tell us about Mainscape and what's going on.
Well, I don't know much. I think Dana can probably help because she's actually met with them. I've seen them in passing, but haven't really talked to anybody, but Dana has.
Yes, we did get a new Mainscapes representative for Costella. The old gentleman that was working with Jen moved on to a different position. The new gentleman, his name is Patrick Doonan. He's been reaching out to me frequently. He actually, when I checked my emails this morning, sent over your proposals yesterday afternoon. So I haven't had a chance to look at them, but he's been out with the agronomist and the arborist to take a look at the plants that are exhibiting new growth, the things that have completely been shocked by the salt water and can't be saved. So I just got the details on that yesterday and I haven't had a chance to take a look, but he's broken up proposals for, because building 3 seems to have taken it much harder than say building 1 in terms of the plant damage. There are a lot of things that are not going to be able to regrow. And I know depending on how the board wants to go with it, they have recommended not only where they need replacement, but things that plant life that they think can be saved by a dramatic cutback because they are seeing new growth on a lot of those hedges and other plants. They have come out and done some work with some of the smaller trees you had, putting them up, propping them up, having them so that they're upright to correct their lean that they've developed since Ian, especially in front of building 3. Again, those trees have all been straightened up. The big question is going to be on which of your palm trees push through the salt shock and continue to grow. Some of them are not showing the spear. That's an indication that they're still healthy inside and continuing new growth. Mainscapes only does trees 10 up to 10 feet. After that, they recommended we go out to possibly another tree company. But right now, he was of the mind to monitor the palm trees to see which ones are going to continue to grow. It looks like he said he felt pretty good about 50% of the trees when they were out with the arborist and the agronomist that they were showing the spears. So we're hoping that a lot of those beautiful palm trees that you guys have out in front are still going to be able to push through. But again, a lot of them are showing the spears. So he's optimistic that you shouldn't lose too many. And then he also took some time at the entrance because you know, when you're leaving on that right side, you have big chunks where those hedges were just completely ripped out by the wind. So I have all that information. And then they were out Friday. They usually come. They had some mechanical issues with their equipment. They were out on Monday afternoon when I was there. They did remove Leo gathered all the palm fronds. So all that's been cleaned up, and then they were removing everything from the pool deck. So we should be in really good shape with their regular service. They just happened to miss Friday because they had some issues, which he called me in advance to tell me about. So
Yeah. Did they say anything about, well, I gotta back up. I noticed at the entrance, the CDD had hollowed out the soil in the areas where they've planted flowers. And I heard the reason why is they were worried about the salt in that soil. And so the plants would not survive. And so they were going to replace that soil. Now we haven't done it up in Costella, but I noticed at the entrance that CDD had.
he, as you and I discussed a little bit, he did mention, because you handed me a list questioning about the annual plantings. He
Right.
did mention that they had some concerns about the salt saturation in the soil, and they were bringing out people that they were testing that to try and determine whether or not you could plant annuals and have them be successful, and also what needed to happen in terms of trying to dilute some of that salt in there and what that process was going to look like, because they also don't want you to be putting in new hedges, new plants, and have them not be able to sustain based on the salt saturation. So they have people that are going to be testing that to let us know what their recommendations are for planting.
Okay. All the more reason for us to get that sprinkler system rolling, you know, before the grass and everything else, the trees, etc. All right, that's all I have for the things to do list. Does anybody else have anything before we move on? Okay, so Marilyn, now we're gonna lean heavy on you. Marilyn has been trying to keep all of us corralled and trying to keep her hands around costs. And, you know, as we walk through all of these issues that we just talked about. And so it's been a big job for her. She's developed a spreadsheet that you received as part of this meeting notice. So Marilyn, if you could just walk us through not walk us through your spreadsheet. I don't think we want to go all the way through that, but just kind of your thoughts on the spreadsheet and collecting that data, the line of credit that we used, and then, you know, of course, what does that mean with the adjuster and those kind of things.
Sure. So let me touch on the insurance situation firstly. We have two major forms of insurance, flood and hazard. With the storm surge, I would say that most of our damages are related to flood. So that's a good news story because the deductible is extremely low. It's like $5,000 for all three buildings. Hazard insurance is related to wind and driving rain. And we really don't have, as far as we know to this point, any damage in that regard. Although there will be hazard adjusters on property the week of November 7th, and they will be coming through all of the units to check for structural damage at that time. So all owners will have to allow them to come through the units. With regard to the claims, on the day of the storm, we actually opened claims as the hurricane was passing over the property. Both flood and hazard adjusters have been on property. All of the things that you've heard about today, elevators, electrical, etc., are falling under flood. And we've been passing all of these quotes to the adjuster as they come up. My guess is now flood insurance is under a federal program. It's actually the National Flood Insurance Program, which is managed by FEMA and is backed by the US Treasury. So they won't go bankrupt because the US Treasury will just keep printing dollars. But
Yes, they will.
So the thing is with this type of coverage, it's very focused on just getting the building in livable condition. So it doesn't cover things like atrium furniture. It doesn't cover pool, pool pumps. It probably won't cover things like the labor that it took to get all the stuff out of the owner lockers. It doesn't cover the golf cart. So there's many things that it doesn't cover. So, don't tie me to this, but I think probably the most we'll get out of that insurance is $250,000 to maybe 320,000, something along those lines. So the owners will be on the hook for the rest, which it will be about $5,000 to $6,000 once the proceeds from the claim roll in. The federal government has increased the claim period claim reporting period from 60 days to a year, which is good because it gives us time to make sure that whatever we're submitting is correct. I think by next week, we'll probably have something back from the flood adjuster as a first draft that the board can look over and make sure everything is included. Now, there will be things downstream that we see relating to corrosion and whatnot, and we're able to file a supplemental claim if we see future damages. So that's a good thing. Our difficulty at this point is because these things are so costly. Spreadsheet, we've got practically $750,000 in damage, is we have to maintain liquidity to pay for these things. And that's why we're asking for the special assessment of $10,000. 720,000 divided by 72 is $10,000. So we need that liquidity to cover us from the time that we're paying the bills to the time we get the claim. And even when we get the claim, it won't cover everything, as I said. There's still going to be at least, in the worst case, probably $500,000 in damages that we have to pay for out of pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we do have a line of credit. And again, on the night of the storm, I was able to contact our banker. About a year ago, we set up a line of credit for disaster recovery. It's $500,000. And we took a draw on the night of the storm of $250,000. So that's kind of propping us up until we get the special assessment paid. Now the special assessment will be due on or before November the 20th. So the sooner the better, folks, that we can get the money, and we'll have to repay the loan the interest rate is 6.25% that we're paying on that. So that will cost us about $1,300 a month until it's paid down. We've already spent roughly half of that 250,000 line of credit draw on deposits for all the work that you've heard about today. I guess that's kind of it.
So Marilyn, I
Board-
think your plan will be to get a little further down the road before you repay that loan. Make sure we're solid and there's nothing, no.
Yeah.
surprises.
I will not recommend, I would not recommend paying that loan off anytime soon, because you know, we're seeing in the last week, we saw the costs ramp up from $500,000 to $750,000. So, and you know, stuff is happening every day. So,
Right. Well, for example, the pool, once we replace that 600 amp breaker, we'll hear the rest of the story. You know,
Right.
now we'll
Right.
find out what else is broken, and then so there'll be added costs there. I think you put in $120,000 for landscaping.
right.
I think that's a
Yeah.
conservative estimate.
I
Uh,
think it's conservative because if we look at when the buildings were painted white, all the landscape around the building, if I recall correctly, I think to replace just around the buildings alone was about 50K.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're sitting on 8 acres and I think there's a lot of damaged landscape. Now, whether we want to do that all at once or over time is something to be considered.
Yeah. Well, I have an opinion about that. We have to wait a little bit until we make sure what's going to live and what's not going to live. But I don't, personally, I don't want to wait a long time. I mean, if we have the money to fix it, and then we should fix it, you know, and have Costello looking like Costello looked like, instead of 3 years later, it's still, you know, Hurricane Ian. But
You know,
My-
I did check with, I had become aware that there might be some regulation by which we have to remediate the landscape, either under the county or the colony. And I did check on that, and there is no regulation. You know, there's no deadline by which we have to remediate that. So,
Right.
you know, we have options.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and we have this period where we have to wait and see what survives anyway, so.
I get the
Okay.
Right.
Great summary, Marilyn. So, you know, with all of that, I think we need a motion for the assessment. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I would move that we actually, the notification that was printed on the agenda is official notification of the assessment, but I would so move that we request that assessment under emergency powers, and that it be due by November the 20th, no later than November the 20th.
Thank
Okay. Second, Joe?
Yep.
Yep. And if I could add something just before we do the final vote, I'm sure I shouldn't have closed discussions, but if there's any residual money left when we get all said and done, it's going to be credited back to the homeowner's account, and they can apply that towards their fees going forward.
Yeah, I should, there's another aspect I should mention. Most of us have coverage on our contents through the standard HO6 policy. And under those policies, owners can, if they're special assessed, can file a claim, which would return to the owner $2,000 less deductible. So all owners should file a claim on this, over this special assessment, and we will provide to the owners a letter to this extent, you know, levying the special assessment, so you can provide it to your insurer. So that will ease the burden a little bit for owners.
Good point. And there's another issue, and I'm not a tax accountant, so I'm speaking, you know, it's above me, but I'll say it anyway. catastrophic loss on your income taxes for you US people. I don't know what's going on in Canada, but catastrophic loss. You summarize that up. I think if you don't itemize, they deduct $500 from that. And then you can claim that against any cap gains. It comes off the income side before adjusted gross income. Check with your tax accountant. That's all. Okay, so we have a motion on the table. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. So I think we're done with that part of the meeting. So we're into the comments by membership, so we can open that up for, you got the ball.
Okay. So right now, we're all on mute. If you have questions, you should have a icon on your side that allows you to raise your hand so that I can unmute people to give them the opportunity to ask their questions and speak without having issues of us all kind of talking over each other. I don't see that button on my side, so I have to ask board members, do you see one where you have the option to raise your hand?
No,
Nope.
I don't see it.
There's people physically raising their hands, so perhaps you could unmute them. Bob
I'll-
Blue,
Oh, I see it. It's under
Okay.
reactions. It's under reactions, Dana. You can make faces and all that kind of stuff, but there's also raise hand. I'll hit mine. Oh,
I think Bob
Oh, yep,
Blue's.
there I see you. Okay. So under reactions, there's an option for hand gestures
So
or
there's
raise
a-
your hand. And I can go ahead and unmute
Raise your hand.
folks.
No. Me either.
no.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So James Foster.
Thank you. I'll make a few comments. All this money was agreed to be spent before you really asked the tenants what they thought about it, or the owners. I've been disgusted with the poor management by the previous boards of Costello. All kinds of things have happened. I've been very unhappy with over the years. There seems a willingness to spend money. We don't seem to have any money in the emergency funds anymore for some strange reason. And I'm just very dissatisfied. I think the fact you had the votes before you had the input from us, I think is very irritating. And it's a total disregard of the people who own those condos. And I'm one of the longest standing owners in the complex. And
yep. Are you done, James?
I'm very angry, actually. I am
Okay.
done. And, when I brought questions up before over the years, it's usually been a lawyer or an accountant who's been on the board, who's looked sneeringly at me like, I don't know about business or how things are done, yet they're the people who've messed up.
Yeah.
And I think it's very, very poor show. And to have the votes on spending the money before you even had any feedback from the owners, I think is a total lack of respect, actually. Obviously, there are emergency things that have to be done, and everyone agrees with that. I think the landscaping, the lowest priority on the list of things to be done. And one thing's for sure, if there's any money left over, given the past history, it'll be spent. I think all the owners can look around the campus and see all the furniture by the pool, the fact that buildings were painted. We now have transparent skylights. They ripped out the lobbies, all kinds of things that didn't really need doing. Some of them made it look better, some didn't, but no respect for the money that we pay. Upping the home association dues by, I forgot the percentages, but considerably a year ago without any pre-warning. I mean, people are very angry about it, and they might not tell you, but they tell me. And I'm very receptive to the bad news, and I'm making my opinion very clear. I think the icing's on the cake is when you agree to spend the money without any feedback.
May I
And
say
the
something?
other, hang a second.
Oh, I'd be happy to.
And the other
I'd be
thing
happy
is,
to respond.
there's no money easier to spend than someone else's.
Where have you been the last month? Where have
I've
you
been up in Buffalo. And who are you?
I am Joe. I'm on the board. We've been working our ass off, and you're angry?
I'm angry
Yeah,
about the
great.
costs. There's a history here. There's a history
Forget-
of how
forget the history.
don't forget the history, and don't tell me to shut up. I've been
I'm
on
not telling
this,
you to shut
I've
up.
an owner. a
Listen
lot
to me
longer
as
than you have.
well. You listen to me.
Show some respect to me.
Show
and
some
be
respect. Where
3
have you been the
minutes.
last
I've
month?
not been spending your money. You've been spending mine.
Joe's doing that.
Listen,
Okay,
where
well,
have
Don't
you
you tell me to
been? Are
listen.
you
Don't
totally
you tell me to
blind or
listen.
what?
You show me some respect. Unless you're an owner. If you're an owner, great.
I
If
am
not,
an owner. I am an owner, and you
Well,
show
they,
no respect.
up until
You
now,
have
there's been
absolutely
a
are
very
looking
poor
for
job.
volunteers. You want to volunteer? Volunteer, my friend.
I have a full-time job up north. If
Well,
you,
too bad.
there's been a history of poor running of this condo association.
no,
And
you know what?
I might be the
I
bad
can't-
guy. I
Forget the
might be the
history.
bad guy telling you this
Hey,
now.
friend, forget the history. Think of
Dana,
what happened.
Dana, 3 minutes, the 3-minute.
Yes, I'm going ahead right now.
I wish I
Sir,
could
your
believe
3
you.
minutes are up.
Uh,
so I'm
I would
going
like,
to-
I would like to respond to that. My personal opinion. I'm on the board. I respect
I
your
don't
opinion.
respect it
I
at
appreciate-
all.
Well, okay, but you have to respect other people's opinions.
Bullshit.
Joe, I know, I hear you. I hear you, but everybody has a different opinion and that's how everything works, I guess. And this is a great example of why we don't go to all of the residents and ask them, well, which flower would you like? Which, what do you want us to do over here? What do you want us to do over there? I mean, where do I draw the line? Which golf cart do you want us to order? We could go on and on and on, and we would be years trying to get anything done and trying to get people on board with that. So you elected us, we volunteered to do this. And so if you elected us to make decisions, we're going to make decisions. That's all there is to it. If you want to be involved in the decision-making process, then you need to come to the board. This was under emergency powers. Now, I have to speak for the past boards. I have to agree with some of what he said because some of the things done by past boards, I didn't agree with either. What we've done with Hurricane Ian that's apples and oranges. It has nothing to do with what happened in the past. So, we had to make decisions. You have to make decisions quickly, and try to make good decisions, but we're not going and we're not going to have meetings with all the residents and then ask them what their opinion is before we make every decision. We just don't have time for that. And it's not our time, it's because we would be in the back of the line in every one of these issues. We needed to move out. That's all I got to say. Joe, you want to say something?
I'm dumbfounded from that comment, really, that James made. I respect people's opinions, but that wasn't an opinion. That was an attack.
Okay,
That's all I have to say.
yeah.
You
Okay.
said- Nope.
No, I appreciate your opinion, Jim, like I say, but I don't regret anything and I wouldn't do anything any differently, so.
And we are always looking for volunteers. There's a lot of work to be done, and we're looking for volunteers.
Okay, next comment.
All right. Suzanne's iPad. There we go.
Dana,
Yep,
Bob
I
Rose.
have,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have one from Suzanne's iPad.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
that's-
sure what
that's-
this is.
that's my wife's iPad because my, the shock of the electricity zeroed out my computer. So
Oh,
anyway,
no.
I'm Bob Luce and I'm on the colony board and I'm familiar with what's going on throughout the colony. And I just want to make this observation. I was here also when the hurricane hit, so I saw what damage was done. And I can tell you that Costello was the worst hit along with La Scala. Those are the two communities that got hit the most. And I can tell you from what I know, what's going on in the other communities within Colony, that Costello was way ahead of the curve of everybody else. And this board deserves everybody's appreciation because what has happened in Costello was the most damage of anywhere else. And we are ahead of everybody else with respect to cleanup, with respect to getting our life safety issues back in place, our elevators and everything else. There is major problems in some of the high rises that they're still addressing. They were not ahead of the curve like we I thank, once again, I thank the board immensely for this.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Next question, Dana.
Don't have any hands up right now. There are
I-
some owners who don't have camera on, so I can't see if anybody, is there anybody that has any other questions? Even if you just physically raise your hand, I can see you all. I can definitely open up the mute. There are no hands raised through the
Bob
Zoom.
Trim. Dana, Bob Trimper.
Oh, there we go. Okay, yep. Just 1 second.
He's talking, but you need to unmute him.
I sent him the invite to unmute. He has to, if you can unmute yourself, sir, that should, you should be able to. There we go.
There we go. Okay. I apologize. I may have missed part of the meeting, but the question is very specific to myself, not to the whole of the building. I understood that that at some point we're going to do something to the storage lockers. Is that correct? Or is everything done that needs to be done?
Jim, you want to answer that?
I'll do my best. So the one thing that we decided to do in the last week, 10 days, is to go back and at least bleach them, the ones that were empty, so that we can kind of control the mold growth, because not all the AC systems were working in the storage room. We had a concept of trying to paint the storage lockers because they're empty. I know of 3 painters. I would not recommend any of them. So I was given the name of one painter from the community that has a good history, and they are so busy, I can't even get a phone call back.
Okay.
So it may be 3 or 4 months before we could consider painting these lockers. So if that's the case, we would probably say there's nothing more we're going to do right now, except for get the AC systems working, because really the ones underneath the buildings look pretty good. They've been pressure washed, they've been cleaned. It's just old yellow that's there. And the ones that are kind of damaged because of the effervescent that's coming off the walls, maybe we should fix the roofs above them before we fix those storage units, and just do all the storage units at a later time. So right now, we kind of had some ideas to do something, but there's nothing firm for us to go forward with in the next few weeks.
Okay, I'm in residence. My storage locker looks really good. Whoever cleaned it did a really good job. I have a number of things that I salvaged during and immediately after the storm that I'd like to put back down there again. I just don't want to get in the way of anything that's going to be done from now on. I mean, if nothing else is to be done, I'm perfectly happy to go in and touch up and clean up whatever I think needs to be done and fill it back up again. But as I say, I just don't want to get in the way of any program that you guys are putting in place. So what I understand, Jim, I'm okay doing that.
You know, given that what we're picking up is the painting companies are just swamped with, with work now, I think it's going to be many months before we could get someone
Okay.
reliable in there. So I would suggest go ahead and put your items back in the storage unit.
Okay. And-
Randy, I'll let you override that or alter that if you see it different.
Well, if we don't have anybody lined up to paint right away, then we can't keep people out of there for the next 4 months while we wait. So,
Okay.
or 6 months,
Uh,
whatever.
And the other thing, you were talking about locks earlier. I went around all the locks I could find on the doors and sprayed WD-40 inside of them. And my mailbox works fine now because of that. I sprayed on building 2. I sprayed the entrance door locks front and back. The front door did not respond, but the side doors did. So just if you have a lock that doesn't work, rather than replace it for several $100s, you might try putting a little WD-40 into it. I'd like to add my thanks and congratulations to the team. I saw them. It was an amazing amount of really difficult grunt work and decision-making on the spot. I know a lot of money has been spent and a lot of money will be spent, but I am perfectly satisfied that everything that has been done in the best interest of the community and in the best way possible. And I thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Any other questions, Dana?
Again, I'm surveying. Anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, yep, I got one right here.
There's a couple.
I got a couple, yeah. Oh,
Scott and
that one
Right.
too. W. Scott Havard.
Yes, hi, how you doing? I want to thank
Oh.
the board too. I was down here. I think they did an incredible job too. I'm good friends with an insurance attorney in Ciela. And you might have touched this already, but they got an assessment already. They had to pay it, but he's already getting reimbursed from his homeowners. And he sent me the thing that they said from their community. I just wanted to pass it by you. He said to keep keep the flood out of it, but it says the Ciela board has approved a special assessment to cover costs associated with the restoration of our community due to the damage caused by Hurricane Ian. He said it's very important to word it exactly like that, and he's getting his full reimbursement back from his assessment. So I can pass it on to you.
Yeah.
Okay, Scott, could you forward that to Dana?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's, it has his name, it has CL. I don't think it's I'll send it to you. I don't think it matters. Dana, can I have your address?
Sure, I
It's on
can
the-
send it to you. Yep, I'll send
It's
it.
on the website. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. What do you got next, Dana?
Mr. Rayner had his hand up, I believe.
Mr. Rayner?
Oh, take it off mute.
I sent him an invite to unmute. He just has to go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, not to sound redundant,
Yeah.
on behalf of my wife and I, and just want to say thanks to the board. The pressure you must have been on, the decisions you have to make on the fly are very, very commendable, and I have nothing but praise for the work that you did on the board. Having been on boards myself, and I know what the pay's like, it's non-existent. Just a word of thanks on behalf of all the friendly Canadians that are in Costella. Dave Sutton will second that as well. So thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Did anyone else have any other questions? I'm not seeing any hands.
Bob Trimper's hand is up again.
Okay, let me go back. There he is.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is just maybe a point of interest. You may know all of this already, but I listed the items in my storage locker, sent them through to my homeowner's insurance. They told me that nothing was covered and sent me a letter that the items I listed were not covered by it and suggested that I send that list to FEMA and that they would probably reimburse most, if not all of it. I don't know if this is general knowledge or not. I don't know how correct it is. I just offer it for anyone who is interested. That's all.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Comes back with anything, yes, this time. We just raise the issue again.
mhm, okay.
Did anybody else have any other questions, wanted to contribute, so I can go ahead and send you the unmute so you can. I'm not seeing any more hands.
All right, board. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Bye.
All right. So we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone, for attending.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dana. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
board.
Bye.
Bye.